everybody, Steve Dawson here, and here's another little mini lesson for you. This time we're going to talk about open C tuning on the Weissenborn or other associated lap steel instrument. So here we go. First of all, what I'm referring to as open C tuning is not the C tuning that you hear talked about with lap steels when they're talking about like Western swing or traditional steel style playing. This is a tuning that I originally heard from people like David Lindley and Ben Harper and stuff like that, and I got into their stuff a long time ago and kind of incorporated it into my playing. And now it's a tuning that I use, I wouldn't say exclusively, but I use it a lot. And you wouldn't think at first glance that it's the most versatile tuning, but it kind of is. And I'm going to show you some of the reasons why and why I think it's cool. So first of all, the tuning that I'm talking about here is a low C. So you're taking an E from a guitar, the low E from a guitar, and actually dropping it 2 whole tones down to a C. So you've got a C. So you kind of need to have a slightly fat string on there to make that work. So it's C, G, C, G, C, and then I've got a D on top here. So it actually makes, depending on how you think about it, a C sus2, or it could be a C9. It kind of depends on the context. I just think of it as a C tuning, and one of the cool things about it is it can become a minor tuning or it can become a major tuning, and I'll show you a couple of those things right now. So when you play the full chord, it's actually just like a gigantic power chord almost. And then you've got this colorful note on top. Now having that D on top gives you quite a bit of leeway about where you go with the melodic content of what you're playing. So if you lean into, say, the 2nd fret of the top string, you've got a C major chord. If you lean more into the 1st fret, you've got a C minor chord. So they're both at your disposal, and that's kind of why I dig this tuning and why I can incorporate it into backing other people up and playing their songs. I can get by an entire night in this tuning, and one of the main reasons that I can do that is because all the low strings are very non-committal. With the top string, you can easily spell out a major or a minor chord. So one of the first things to do is to learn what a major scale is on one string, and that sort of orients you in the tuning and will allow you to start playing. So for example, on the C string, which is the 2nd string, used to be, or on a regular guitar, the B string, which is now the C string, a C major scale going up from there is just open 2nd fret, 4th fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, 9th fret, 11th fret, 12th fret. If you want to make it a little bluesier, you can hit the 10th fret instead of the 11th fret, and that gives you a mixolydian scale, which sounds like this. And that flat 7 in there gives you that bluesy tonality. Now that exact pattern also works on the 4th string. There's the mixolydian scale again. So once you learn it on the 2nd string, you also know it on the 4th string. You also know it on the 6th string, but honestly, I don't play a lot of melodic stuff down on that 6th string. It's pretty low and it's just not that convenient. So I'm mostly sticking to the top 5 strings for most of the melodic stuff that I'm doing. If you learn the C major scale on the G string, which is still the G string, you've got a G, which is not the root of the scale, but it's G, then A. Then if you're doing the major scale, it's the 4th fret. C, here's your root note at the 5th fret, 7th fret, 9th fret, 10th fret, 12th fret. Now if, again, you want to turn that into the mixolydian scale and get a little bluesier with it, you've got the 3rd fret instead of the 4th fret. So that's going to be. So once you memorize the scale on those 2 strings, now remember that G string is going to be mirrored exactly on the 5th string. So now you know there's your mixolydian note. Now you kind of know the C major scale on all of the middle 4 strings. If you take that to the top string as well, just to orient yourself, you've got D. Say we're doing the major scale. 2nd fret is E. 3rd fret. 5th fret. 7th fret. 9th fret if you're playing the major scale. Or 8th fret if you're playing the mixolydian scale. 10th fret is your root note. So there you go. Memorize those and you're a lot of the way there. So let me show you a couple little things in the open position. First of all, in a major key. So here's our nondescript C chord. Is it major? Is it minor? I don't know. But if I were to play something like this, it's pretty major. And that's because I'm leaning into the 2nd fret on the top string. I'm playing the fourth fret on the 3rd string. I'm playing the 4th fret on the 4th string. So all those things combined, I'm kind of improvising what I'm playing there, but you get the idea. If you're sticking to the 2nd fret, 3rd fret, and 5th fret of the top string, you've got So first of all, let's look at how to play a C major scale kind of condensed into just the top 5 frets. So from the 5th fret of the top string, you can go down to the 3rd fret, 2nd fret, open. Then you're going to backtrack up a note and go to the 4th fret of the 2nd string, 2nd fret, open, 4th fret of the 3rd string, 2nd fret, open, 5th fret of the 4th string, 4th fret, 2nd fret, open, 4th fret of the 5th string, 2nd fret, open, and then you can just kind of cap it off with a little lick from the 4th fret down on the bottom string. Now, if you start incorporating some open strings along with any of those notes, you're going to turn this chord, which is nondescript, whether it's major or minor, into a very major sounding set of notes. So let me give you an example. Suddenly it sounds like a major tuning, but it's not. It's still the same nondescript tuning. It's just we're leaning into the major notes. That's all notes from that position I just showed you. Now, if we lean into more of the minor notes, and the main differences here are the 1st fret of the top string, the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, which is the same note, it's just a different way of playing it, and definitely leaning into the 3rd fret of the 3rd string, 3rd fret of the 4th string, open, 3rd fret of the 5th string. So now if you're sort of leaning towards the 1st fret on the top string, and then kind of think of like the 3rd fret all the way down on the rest of the strings. And all of a sudden you've got a very minor sounding tuning. So from the same tuning come 2 very different tonalities, and that's one of the things that I really dig about it. Now here's another cool thing about it too, is the 3rd of the chord, which is kind of pesky in my mind. It doesn't always ring out that well. It's always kind of weird to tune the 3rd. Well, in this case, we don't have a 3rd, so we don't have to worry about it. What that means is when you're playing open strings against fretted strings, there's very cool tonalities that can happen. So let me give you an example of playing that same C scale that we played. Say I'll play the Mixolydian, so the 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, 9th fret, 10th fret, 12th fret. But if you mix that with, say, the top 2 open strings, you've got, say if you just do a straightforward roll, so 3rd string, 2nd string, 1st string in a row. You can do the exact same thing with the 4th string. just different frets. So open 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 10, 12. And incorporate some open strings with that scale. Again, just a straightforward roll. Pretty cool. Then if you mix those in together, I'll stick to my melodies just being on the 3rd and 4th strings and keeping the top 2 strings open. And again, you're not going to be able to tell is it major or minor, and a lot of that is put into context by what you're playing against. It's pretty fun. Another thing you can get away with in there is doing these trilly kind of notes. So by incorporating some of that, I'm going thumb, index, middle, thumb. And those are kind of a pickup triplet into the downbeat, which is actually the last thumb. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. So if you throw in a couple of those things, that can sound really cool too, keeping the top 2 strings open. When you start putting some of all that stuff together, you get something like this. Now, another really cool thing about this tuning is the low 3 strings are exactly like open D tuning, just shoved down 2 frets. Big old power chord down there. But you've got all this low string, low range stuff that sounds great, that if you've played open D tuned slide guitar at all, it's all going to be very familiar to you. For example. So I was leaning into the 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret there, and that's going to give me that minor tonality. Now if I do the same kind of things, but I stick closer to the 4th fret instead of the 3rd fret, it's going to give me a major tonality, such as... Another cool thing about this tuning is all the chords available to you. You've got the standard 1, 4, and 5 chords, which you can play with varying degrees of open strings to give you color. So your 1 chord or your C chord, your 4 chord or your F chord. Top 2 strings open gives you this sound. G chord at the 7th fret, that's the 5 chord. Again, top 2 strings open as an option. Very nice sounding 5 chord there. Up at the 9th fret, you've got the 6 chord, and if you definitely keep the top 2 strings open on this, it's going to imply a minor chord. And the reason why, well, it's not even implying it, you're playing a minor chord, and the reason why is it's an A minor chord, and you're playing like an A power chord down here, but then the open C string turns it into an A minor chord, and then this D on top just gives it a bit of color. So say the progression went 1, 6, 4, 5, 1. It would sound like this. C is the 1. 6. Here's the A minor. F, 4. G, 5. Again. there's so many more chords too. There's the flat 3 chord, which is at the 3rd fret. And again, those top 2 strings open just add some great color. There's the sharp 5 chord, sounds great too with the top 2 strings open. Very mysterious. The flat 7 chord up at the 10th fret. That's a B flat chord. So all the chords at your disposal, you've got like a C chord, you've got a D minor chord at the 2nd fret, you've got an E flat at the 3rd fret, you've got an F at the 5th fret, you've got a G at the 7th fret, you've got a G sharp at the 8th fret, you've got an A minor at the 9th fret, you've got a B flat at the 10th fret, and then back to your C at the 12th fret. A lot of mileage to be gained from that, and you can play in a lot of different keys. You can also put a capo on and play in the key of D in your open positions. You can put a capo on the 3rd fret and play in E flat. You can put it on the 4th fret and play in E. You can put it on the 5th fret and play in F, and I generally don't capo any higher than the 5th fret, but you could if you wanted to. Tuning gets to be a bit of an issue if you capo up any higher. And the last thing that I'll say about this tuning that I like is that you can do a lot of the alternate picking melodic playing that a lot of us have played on the guitar before. If you keep that as an example, the 6th and the 4th string going, and add in some melody notes with your fingers, it's just an endless amount of fun. Switch into minor. So for all of those reasons, I think open C tuning on the Weissenborn or the Dobro or any lap style guitar is very cool, and I think it's well worth checking out. Please give it a chance. I think you'll dig it. Over and out. See you next time.